In 1921, 308 theaters in the United States catered primarily to African American trade. Also, there were 5 exchanges distributing black cast films. This has been a historical moment. Today, we're talking with women filmmakers. Romell Foster-Owens, director. Ruby Oliver, director, with our host, Henry Ealy.
Situation
to be a
would
critic,
have.
you're supposed to be objective. And if they're
Well,
objective,
supposed
then
to
they
be and
should
is.
The problem with black filmmakers and critics is they tend to judge our films based on each black film they've ever seen.
Okay,
so they compare each one of them to
standard
Spike
problem.
Lee or to this or to that.
Well, I don't.
But they
think
don't
that-
do that. No, they generally do that, but they do not do that with white films. They don't compare Arnold Schwarzenegger's film to a Robert Redford film. They never do that.
Or meet me in St. Louis.
Right.
Louis.
But our films, they tend to compare them to whatever black filmmaker's film is out there at the time, and that's wrong to do that. They should stand individually on their own.
Do you think then that sometimes black filmmakers have a tendency to be pimped?
There's no
It's a
question
whole business.
about
This
that.
business is being pimped.
I think what's happening now in this new trend is the filmmakers' powers of be says, okay, we're going to be the good guy. We're going to give you the money and let you exploit your own people.
All right.
So what difference does it make what color the filmmaker is if he's being pimped? And he must
Well, the thing
follow
is, we
this
have to-
formula.
Well, but you don't necessarily have to follow a formula. And I
You
think
do
as
in order to get their money.
to a certain extent you do. But I think that there are times as a black filmmaker.
Well, how did you get your money?
It's independent money.
Okay.
It's independent. But what I'm saying is there are times I think as black filmmakers, we're making films with the studio, there are times when we can make some changes, but we have to be conscious enough to make those changes. For instance, New Jack City, which I think is a wonderful film, but it's being advertised as an anti-drug film. But that's not an anti-drug film. If it was an anti-drug film, the brother that cleaned himself up would have stayed clean when he was in that drug environment, because that's what our kids need to see, that they can really fight that. That would be an anti-drug statement.
Yeah, but
Wesley
I think
Snipes is...
we're deviating from. We don't want to talk at this juncture about
Any film.
African American male filmmakers. We
I'm
want to
not
talk
talking about a male
Well,
filmmaker.
you're talking about,
no, I'm not.
Boys in
That
the
happens to
Hood.
be. I didn't talk about Boys in the Hood.
Well,
I'm saying, for
New Jack
instance,
City,
no,
what
I'm
you're
saying, for
talking
instance, it could have been a female filmmaker. It didn't matter, or it could have been a
But let's
white
talk
person.
about
It doesn't
an
even matter.
African American female filmmaker.
Well, then when you talk about those, how many do you have?
Yeah, that's the
Ruby
first thing.
Oliver,
Okay.
Julie Dash,
Okay.
Romell, what's your last name?
Foster-Owens.
Foster.
Foster-Owens.
Foster-Owens, don't want to miss that.
No,
And there's one more, a lady that just did Gifted that I understand
Or
is
Audrey. What's her
Audrey Lewis.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
So 5 in America. Do you
All right.
know how minute that is? There's only 5 of us to even talk about.
All right. So, what about the education of you 5? Do you go through the traditional hoops and jumps that everyone else goes through when they go to filmmaking school?
No,
What
it's
type of
harder for you.
encouragement? What type
It's
of
harder for you.
encouragement did you receive?
I went to the American Film Institute through their director's program, which, as a fellowship program, which is the most difficult program that they have.
Connected with which university?
The American Film Institute
Okay, where? Located where?
in Hollywood.
In Hollywood.
Yeah, the American Film Institute is considered the West Point, et cetera, of filmmaking.
All right.
People from all over the world come to AFI.
How large was your class?
They only accept, in my class there were 30,
30.
but they had over, usually about 5,000 applicants that want to come in as a director.
How many were African American females?
One.
You?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. Did you have a positive experience?
Yes, because I was working within, I was a working professional within the industry before I went there. And so I knew what I wanted to get out of it. They don't cater to you in any way, shape, or form. No, they don't. I mean, and the difference there is oftentimes when you're in a white setting, education-wise, sometimes it's confusing as to what kind of films you really want to make. Do you stick to just making films about African Americans? Do you make films about the general populace? What do you do?
What did you do for your thesis project? Or did you
I
have
did-
one?
But my first film that I did there, which is called More Than a Game, which is a black film about a young black teenage boy.
Do you
who
think
was
you
a
were
rite of passage.
compartmentalized in
No,
that
I
way?
did what I wanted to do.
Okay, did you step outside your gender and racial identification in your
Absolutely,
project? Okay,
absolutely.
how were you treated when you did that?
Mostly people said, you can't do that. You can't get it done. One, it was a football piece, so I'm stepping outside my gender right there.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
and it was a male-orientated piece. I'm stepping out there again. It was about a black father-son relationship as well as the pressures that he had with his peer group. My film won the Black Filmmakers Hall of Fame Award for Best Independent Film. So that's the only affirmation I need to know.
Okay, but how did
right.
it rank within how did it rank within your class?
At the top.
It was at the top.
That's right.
Did you have a similar experience?
Well, not necessarily.
Where did you go to school?
I went to Columbia College in Chicago,
In Chicago,
Illinois. I
which is
spent 4
equivalent-
years. Well, I spent 4 years in
4
college.
years.
I have a degree in film and video with a screenwriting emphasis. And of course, my experience was the head of the filmmaking department told me, Ruby, I know you should not do this feature film because I couldn't do it, and if I couldn't do it, you can't do it.
What did that suggest to you?
Well, because I was a mature woman, it suggested that tune him out. But to the average person, it would suggest he had already classified me by his
Pigeonholed you.
yeah. But
It
my level
stereotyped
of
you.
consciousness was above his, and I just tuned that out. So I just knew what I could do, and I went on and I did do it. But my experience at Columbia College was I learned because that's what I went for, and because I was a mature woman. I had been in daycare for 23 and a half years. I had run a company. I felt secure within myself. I was retired when I went to college to do this. So my experiences, I can say, were good because that's what I went there for, and I had to fight for many things, but I knew to fight for it.
Okay, now, how would you identify the contemporary Hollywood success formula? How would you identify that today? What is it?
I know it off the exploitation,
All right,
sexual,
all right.
vulgar, and think of any other negative word. Violent.
Are you talking about black films, or are you talking about Hollywood in
I said
general?
Hollywood. I didn't say African American.
Yeah, that's
I said
the
Hollywood.
formula. There is a basic formula, and I did not learn that. Now, they didn't teach me that in college. I learned that after I got out here, after I'd done the film, when I was told, well, this doesn't fit any formula. What are we going to do with this film?
But I think that's changing. I mean, when you have
It
films
didn't change yesterday. Maybe it's changed today.
it's changing now. When you have films like Dances with Wolves, that's a change, a
That was a
definite
violent
change.
film.
Sure, well, I guess it depends on how you look at it and put
Well,
it
it
in
was a violent
perspective.
film.
There's a lot of
It was
violence in
violent.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
But on the other side, what's changing is you're getting opportunity to see other cultures.
But then again,
that normally you don't see.
but don't you think that's ironic that here you have a white male?
No, it's not ironic. It happens all the time.
No,
The Color
no.
Purple wouldn't have been made
No,
if you
no,
didn't
no.
have a white male
Please hear
directing
me
that.
out.
Okay.
If you're going to deal with the indigenous population, do you think it would be more incumbent to have the indigenous population tell its story rather than the traditional white male, Carolyn?
Of course it would be.
See, that's what I'm talking
Of
about.
course it was. So a white man telling an Indian story, that's his perspective. An Indian might have told it totally different.
Well, it's back to where some American Indian friends of mine were asked, when will the Indians win the war? When they make the film.
That's right.
Simple as that. That's when they'll win the war. The same thing with us. When will we change the images? When will we see other cross sections of the African American culture? Right now, we're seeing maybe 1% of who we are and what
now,
we're about. So when we start making
the film, how does your film speak to that issue?
my film is a G-rated film. It's a fairy tale. It's a spoof on the Three Musketeers. It takes place in Paris and France, although we shot it in Atlanta, Georgia. It's different. You see black people riding horses and doing that very well. I mean, the violence in it, we toned it down because we wanted children to have that readily accessible to them. So when they have sword fights, they're with like toy swords. Part of it is that we're in the 15th century, but because it's a comedy and it's a spoof, the characters will wear Reeboks or Adidas or Nikes, you know, and there's a play up about that. So it's a cross between like The Princess Bride and The Never-Ending Story, which is, this is a type of film we haven't seen yet, done by African Americans with African Americans in it. We have not seen that yet. What's been let out the gate so far, They're very similar.
So then you're really deviating from
Absolutely.
that traditional Hollywood formula. What about your film, Love Your Mama?
I Love Your Mama certainly deviates. It shows the African American woman as a strong black woman. She's not a whore. She's not on drugs. And she's staying there holding that family together through adverse circumstances. She deals with a teen pregnancy. She deals with 2 young boys out stealing cars and one gets shot. He's at the point of death. She deals with the husband that is less than perfect. Yet she deals the way my mother dealt with it. She held us together. And
Okay.
at the end it said,
Now,
yes, I can.
How would you contrast that with The Color Purple, your film?
How would I contrast that? I would say that when you see my film, automatically you have a family positive image because you know that this mother is going to hold it together, and all through the film you're pulling for the family to win, and at the end they do win, and there's an education, there's a yes I can, there's an uphill struggle that you see that it can be won no matter what the circumstances.
Do you say in your way that your film is something similar to Sounder?
Well, similar in a sense of survival, but because the periods are different and
All right.
because the people speak English just as we're speaking,
All right.
it is different in that way. It's a contemporary film of what is going on now.
Where is the African American male in your film?
When you say where is he, you mean
Where
his
is he?
role?
Yeah, where is it? You know, you speak about the 2 boys stealing cars and the father being held, the mother struggling to hold the father together. I guess my question is he in a traditional role?
I wouldn't say traditional because
Remember
we
where the
bring
African
him out.
American male was in Sounder? He couldn't feed his family, he winds up in jail.
Okay, well, we
But
don't
that
know
was a
that
traditional
far.
role for
Yeah,
the
that's
time
what I'm trying
period.
to add.
Yeah.
Well, not really. Not really, because if we look at the history of African American film, not everyone fell into that trap. Oscar Micheaux didn't fall into that trap.
Well, I'm not talking about it in terms of filmmakers, I'm talking about in terms of society.
Well,
That-
here you have to look at that period in times of society, what is going on.
Right.
You know, everybody wasn't a sharecropper,
No, they weren't.
you see?
No, they weren't.
So-
That
so
was a
we
slice
cannot-
of it.
Yeah, we just cannot subscribe to that. But I'm asking you again, you know, in your film,
In my particular film,
Where
the father
is he?
well, he's in the home. However, as I said, he's less than he should be.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, in any film, you know you must have a beginning, end, and conflict. He creates the conflict within the film. The film itself is about a mother holding her family together through adverse circumstances.
okay, now the tension in that film between the father and the mother, is it in any way akin to the tension in Danny Glover's film, To Sleep with Anger?
I did not see that,
Oh, you did
so
not see
it's
it. Did
hard
you
for
see
me
it?
to comment
You
on it.
saw that tension. All right. Now, I guess my question is it really appropriate if you're going to come with alternative delivery systems to highlight that type of tension within the family?
Filmmaking is a very individual art.
Okay.
So when
Yeah.
you're making a film, you have to approach it from what is it that you want to say? What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want, a message that you want to put out there into the world and affect some sort of a change? Usually as a filmmaker, that's what you want to do. You have a very specific statement that you want to say, particularly if you write the screenplay, that you really want to just hone in whatever it is, if it's a relationship situation, a mother-daughter, a father-son, whatever. The problem right now with filmmakers and African-American filmmakers is we haven't had the opportunity to put enough different things out there. So whatever comes out is judged so harsh, you know, and we're looking at each individual character. How does this character relate to us? Are we, you know, shooting down the black American man? Are we shooting down the black American woman? It's very difficult for us to look and see, this is a slice of whatever it is.
A slice of the pie.
Right,
yeah.
because as a filmmaker, you cannot run around and expect everybody to totally understand what it is that you're saying and you're trying to do, because it's very individual. The films that make it are the ones where the masses really do understand what it is you're saying, and it touches them in some sort of a way. So when we start dissecting in terms of the African American female director, our films haven't come out yet, and people are looking to us to have a different voice. And what a voice has been void so far is